Hi, my name is Alejandro Pérez, and this is the AI Coffee Podcast. Every week, you will have one disruptive aspect of technology and artificial intelligence for the time to drink a cup of coffee. Today, we are going to talk about ninjas, about data, and about a lot of things regarding AI and big data. For doing that, we have a friend, we have a very relevant person. Welcome, Marta. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure greeting you today and being with all your audience.
Marta Arroyo is a big data and AI specialist. She is the founder of Datos Ninja, a community around machine learning, AI, and data engineering. Marta is also a content creator and she hosts a podcast in Spanish whose name is Big Data and Artificial Intelligence, and in Spanish is Big Data e Inteligencia Artificial. Wow, Marta, it's an honor having you here. Thank you very much. We met a couple of months ago. Thank you, Sin Oficina, for hosting also this connection. But let's start talking about you, about your personal, let's say, perspective, your professional background, and then little by little, let's talk about big data, about AI, which is a topic that I think you are an expert on. So I am curious, and I want you to talk a bit about your journey from Telefónica to creating a community around data and AI. Why did you decide to do this path?
Well, the thing is that I've always been drawn to data. Originally, when I studied telecommunications, when I was back in university, I was really interested in signal processing, which is kind of similar. And then I ended up in Telefonica, so I drifted away data a little bit, and then I saw the potential of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and I decided to get back in. So, well, also I'm all a very curious person, and I wanted to start something by my own, stop working for a big company and try something else. So everything kind of went together, and I changed to be a freelance. Start Datos Ninja, start with a podcast, and leave the big corporate.
Yeah, it really it's something you can see, I think, and we all see when we listen to your podcast, for example, and the way you create content, that you try to do things for everyone, for being also on the present, because nowadays I think AI and data is much more relevant than ever. So your curiosity also pushes you to go beyond, I think. But I have a question also regarding your perspective and your motivation, because I saw something on your website on datos.ninja, and I will say directly the sentence I saw. You said, I was not born with a spectrum under my arm, and I just started coding when I was forced to do it at university. This is why I know that a data ninja is made, not born. So, can you explain a little bit more this sentence and why you felt that way?
Well, you see, when you see people talking about their careers, it's like they've known since they were born what they were going to do, and it was not my case. And I think there's a lot of people like me that is like, well, I was going to start in university. I didn't know a thing about the world or what I wanted to do with my life. So, well, I mean, it's not a must that you have to be a programmer since you were like 5 year old to become somebody that can work in this environment. I mean, you can just learn, and your curiosity and your mm, appeal for the data can appear later in your life. It's like everyone has his own path. So that's the thing.
This is very nice, because usually people and tech people say, when I was 5 years old, I started with a computer and coding and things like that. And what I think in your case is very common. This is the most common thing, that you just started, then you discover that you like it a lot, and then you were like little by little learning. This is, I think,
Yeah, that's
the
the point. I was kind of a
yeah.
random kid with no computer, so I mean, it's not like a necessity to be a programmer since you are like 5 years old.
Mhm. That's really, really great. But let's come back a little bit to your professional background, because I didn't mention, but Telefónica, for the foreign people outside Spain, is one of the main companies regarding telecommunications in Spain. Actually, I think the oldest one, I think, actually, in Spain at least, is very, very known. So usually, as far as I know, people, when they go in and join Telefónica, usually they don't want to go out. So just a little bit curious about, do you regret it, or do you think that you did it well to go as a freelance and also learn doing things on your own?
Well, I think life is about experiences. I've always think that way. So, I mean, I must admit that it's way harder than I thought in the very first place. But I don't think I could say I regret it because I've been in Telefonica for 10 years. I know what I was doing already. I mean, I know where I could go in that path. I didn't like being the same person the rest of my life. I mean, I needed something else. I need to keep learning, even if it's tough. So yeah, I needed to experience something else. That's it.
That's great. That's great. And let's talk a bit, I mean, about the this world of starting something on your own, because I think it might be complicated at the beginning, but then you have a lot of good experiences, as for example, being here, like discussing, meeting new people, knowing new things. What are like the most positive things that you have discovered?
Well, I've discovered helping people is really satisfying because I mean, with the podcast, there's people that write me an email and say like, well, you have discovered me the whole world of data. I've started a master's degree in data. There's one time once a girl, I think it was a girl, wrote me and told me something like, I'm now in Beijing doing a master's in data because I've listened to your podcast. And I was like, what? I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, so satisfying. So yeah, that's on the one hand. And then uh, when I was back in the big corporate in Telefonica, I didn't put so much attention or so much effort in networking or meeting new people. I was like, okay, I'm doing my job. It's okay. Then I go back and go on with my life. But then I've discovered this thing of networking, of creating communities, and it's so cool to meet new people with the same interests as your own. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a new universe that you discover when you go out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah, I think it's a bit addictive even, right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Great, great. So let's talk a bit about your main thing, which is Datos Ninja. That also, datos means data in Spanish for the ones that don't know Spanish. Um, why did you decide to start something and with this name, with also with this kind of domain? Because .ninja, I guess, is very, very weird, and this is the only one I know, at least. And
Yeah.
why did you chose this term ninja?
Well, I have to admit that looking for a good domain is something that is very hard. I mean, I wanted like a short domain that is not difficult to remember. So yeah, I've considered some different stuff, and then I discovered this .ninja thing and said, well, I'm going to build everything around the concept of becoming a ninja in data, a ninja of big data and machine learning. And that was the whole story. I mean, I was looking for a short domain that was easy to remember.
Wow, great, great. I think you did it well. I mean, it matches really a lot with your purpose and also with the idea you have building. So yeah,
Mm.
really, really great. So let's talk a bit about it. because at the beginning when I met you, you were having only a newsletter, I think, and the podcast integrated into this. But now you have a community. So why did you decide to start a community, and why do you think that a community is a good place for learning?
Well, this comes as the thing we've been talking earlier. I mean, when I was back in Madrid working in the big corporate, I didn't put any effort in networking or meeting new people, and I think that's one of my biggest errors in my career. I think like talking to people and stuff that's a common error that people make. I mean, it's very important to build your own network of people that you can trust on, that you can ask when you don't know something or when you need help. So I really wanted to do that for the artificial intelligence and machine learning world.
Yeah, it's really interesting, this perception, and also I think addressing these talents into directly going to the persons, the people, instead of, for example, teaching in companies. I think it's something not very common
Hmm.
and really interesting. And also because I think you are addressing to people that are starting a career on data, which also is very important because sometimes it could be really tough. You're there to motivate them, to help them with books. I think you have even summaries of books on your
Yeah.
community, and these books, I agree, because we have talked a bit before. I agree that usually they are very long and very tough. So yeah, summarizing them and having the key ideas is usually very interesting. So can you maybe say a couple of advices to a potential person that is starting, let's say, learning about data, about machine learning, or at least that this person maybe would like to learn a bit about them?
Well, I mean, uh, machine learning, data, the whole world is really huge. I mean, I cannot think about learning everything because this is like going so fast and advancing so fast that it's almost like very challenging. So before going into the I need to choose a degree or a bootcamp or any kind of education, just read something, try to read to people that's already doing what you think that you want to do and ask them. I mean, not even in a community, which is a good thing to do, but even in on LinkedIn or whatever, just somebody that you think have the role that you want, just reach to them and ask them, what is your job about, what do you do in your day to day, do you like it, what is your advice to me, because it's people that has already gone through the path that you want to start, so they can have really good advice for you.
Mhm. Yes, and actually, I think now many people talk about AI from a sexy perspective, let's say, and usually working with AI means working with data, which is maybe not obvious for a lot of people. And working with data is a particular job that you need to really like feel it and think that. I mean, go to the data. There's like many different types of data coding and stuff, of course, but still it's like a kind of work. So yeah, it's true that it's better to directly go to the people on LinkedIn as us, for example. I mean, maybe a lot of them, many others that would help you to understand a little bit more about what's a day in your life. Of course, yeah, yeah, good point. But do you think it's easy to start with data?
Well, I mean, it's easy to start. It depends because there's like this half of people that thinks that you have to start with a lot of whole math tools that you have to dominate before starting into the whole data career, and that's like a fair point, but it's very hard. So maybe it's easier if you just see the whole end-to-end process and just start step by step, and then when you see that you've got something that you don't know, just go and seek it before going like, first I'm going to build the whole math statistic and stuff, and because then it's going to be very, very difficult. So you have kind of two views of the same thing. You can take the easier path or kind of straightforward, and you can get the whole more difficult path. It depends.
Hmm. Yeah, and actually, most of projects have different people involved. So also, you don't need to do everything, because usually
That's
this is
true.
a mistake that we think that we need to do everything, and maybe you can directly work, I don't know, with cloud systems if this is your thing, and you don't need even to code in Python, for example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a fair point. I mean, you just need to to have a whole overall vision of the whole system. I mean, there's a plenty of ways to start into data, into machine learning. You don't have to do the whole thing by yourself. I mean, it depends also in the size of the company you are gonna to start work with, but I mean, it's not a necessity.
Hmm. Good point. And let's talk a bit about the projects, because you also work on projects as a consultant, also as a developer, let's say, coding and creating the AI and the machine learning itself. So I have a question regarding that. What's for you maybe the best approaches, the best use cases for companies working with machine learning? Do you? I mean, I'm a fan of your podcast, so I know that usually you talk about a lot of different topics. For example, I think the last one now at this moment was one related to traveling and travel industry, which is a very good one, for example. But you can say a lot of use cases like you think that machine learning is relevant for.
Hmm. Well, the first thing about starting with machine learning is that you need to have data. As a lot of people just miss that point. So it's very important to start with data. And maybe if you are in an early stage, you need to start with analytics and uh, start working with your use case. What do you need? What do you want to build on that data? What kind of data you can collect? And then only then you can start thinking about machine learning, because people now more than ever is like, yeah, but I want artificial intelligence in my company. Yeah, but I mean, it depends on the use case. I mean, there's a lot of strategy on that. So yeah,
You
it's
know,
not like
sometimes.
I'm gonna start with artificial intelligence like from zero. Well, it's a process, and every company has a step, where a starting point where they are
Mhm.
actually.
You know, sometimes I this I call this kind of behavior like they want to create magic, because I mean, if you want to do an AI system without data, is directly like creating an oraculum with magic, because it has no pattern, no data to be trained for. So I mean, usually for us I think it's obvious, but for many people they really want to implement a machine learning model or an AI model or something to predict something. But okay, you need a historical data for
Yeah, you need data
for training
of
this.
some
I
sort. I
mean,
mean, something.
I mean something, or the other way is like I create a random function that I mean works on directly. I mean, this is the only thing I can do.
And then
So yeah.
also, it's something that you need. It's not like you need to predict something that you don't need. If you don't need that prediction for everything, it's a waste of time and money. So I mean,
Mm,
there's a kind of a path to follow for any machine learning project. I mean, there's also the other side. If you want to implement generative AI or put a chatbot or use ChatGPT for anything in your company, that's fine. But that's not a machine learning project. That's something else. I mean, you can
mhm,
use it as a tool, which is fine as well.
mhm. Yeah, but even these kind of systems are trained with data. The only
Yeah,
thing is
sure.
that it's not your data.
It's not your data. Yeah.
That's the only thing. But that's true that usually people forget that, and it's very important. But Marta, what about the use cases? Like valuable? Do you have valuable use cases about AI? As I mentioned, traveling, for example, for travel industry. I don't know. Can you share others?
Well, I like a lot recommendation systems and e-commerce. That's kind of my favorite thing. But yeah, because it has kind of a straightforward path because you've got an e-commerce, you've already got analytics or any kind of tool that is collecting data, and then from that you can build stuff. So even if you're starting from zero, an e-commerce starting from zero is kind of a straight path. So and they see the they can see the profit very early on. So because you are recommending something that your client is gonna want, so everything
Hmm.
is happy after that if it's working. So yeah, that's kind of my favorite kind of project. But I do kind of a lot of things now. I'm doing a lot of strategy with a generative AI. But yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, that's true that recommendation systems are very necessary and very useful. And usually people forget that they exist because
yeah,
when people think
they are
about,
everywhere.
and they're everywhere, exactly. They are on Netflix, they are on, I mean, Spotify or YouTube, in any platform. When you go in, they recommend you something. And this is because they have a machine learning model that is trained on your data and knows what you want to see or
Yeah,
predict what you want to see. So this is very, very interesting, very useful because, of course, the better this recommendation is, the better the usability of the system is, of course. But can you? I mean, I'm curious now because I didn't know that you were so focused on e-commerces. I was thinking maybe that other kind of projects were more interesting for you. So why e-commerces? I mean, really, because there are like many different kinds of that, because of the analytics, the metrics, because they
yeah,
have a lot of
everything.
data.
Yeah, the whole thing. It's like you've got already the data, so it's not you're not starting like, yeah, I want to do a machine learning. I want to predict something, or I have this use case, and can machine learning help me? It's like you already have the data, or it's easier to get the data, and the client see the profit very early on in the process. So that's why it's kind of satisfying to implement this kind of projects. But I mean, I've done I've done different kind of things, as I said.
Hmm. Great, great. And let's talk a bit about AI because, I mean, that's a small point for the audience. Machine learning is a little bit broader, let's say, the term than AI, at least for me. I don't know, Marta, for you. And machine learning is more like, more in, for at this moment at least, maybe in the future they will think differently. But for me, it's more creating an algorithm, a model that predicts or forecasts or, I mean, target you or something like that based on data. But AI, when we talk about AI, usually we refer more to a generative AI at these days. Um, and now AI is changing really quickly. This is something
Mm.
that is not happening, for example, for machine learning, that, okay, we have maybe new models appearing little by little, but still, it's like not as AI that maybe 1 week later you have another tool, another LLM or something like that, and it changes completely everything. So can you share maybe something that during the last years that really impacted you on AI? Like really, like you said, "Oh my God, today I think something weird happened, a new innovation arrived, and I think everything is going to change." Did you live that?
Well, the whole multimodal models that train on data, on images and text, and they can generate an image or do what GPT models did before is kind of wow. It blows my mind. I mean, I use ChatGPT like every day, and it's like, could I live without it? Like before 2022, right? I mean, so it's so ingrained now in our society. Everyone uses and takes advantage of it, and you can become so much. I don't know, so much faster doing your job. I mean, so it's
Mhm.
kind of really spread over this whole society very fast.
But is something weird that I'm seeing, and let me know also your thoughts. Is that there are also many people that never ever use ChatGPT. Now we are at the end of 2024, just for context, and yeah, I promise you that recently I did a training session with a company, and I think there were around 40 people, and around three only were the only ones that already a couple of times they use it, ChatGPT. The rest never ever have used them. So wow, this is like we are in the two velocity world, right?
Yeah,
How do
yeah,
you
that's
see
the
it?
whole point. That's the whole point. I mean, I see people using it because, I mean, you get surrounded by the people that is similar to you yourself. I mean, I follow on Twitter people that is interested in artificial intelligence, so they are talking the whole day about it. I mean, everything I see is related to this. So yeah, I see like, well, yeah, everything is going so fast, but there's people that have never used it. I don't know. It's
But this
true
is
that
crazy.
it's kind of a red flag, the two velocity worlds, you see, because where is this gonna end? I mean, people using AI work so much faster, so yeah, it can bring some inequalities in society as well. So yeah,
Yeah, this is a very challenging point, I guess, and I think we are going to see it even like bigger and I mean bigger and bigger in the future because the ones that never use it ChatGPT nowadays, I think they are not going to use it in the next years, maybe. So yeah, it's going to be even worse. So how do you think these people would maybe bridge this gap and go to try and play a little bit with ChatGPT?
well, that need to start with their own curiosity. I mean, they are not interested. It's difficult to force them because they are adults. I mean, if they are on a job, maybe they can be on some sort of training, and that's a good point. But well, I mean, the whole reason of my podcast is just trying to spread the whole how this thing works uh, to everyone. I mean, I normally talk to my father and it's like, have you listened to this week episode? Have you understood it? So I know if I'm going I'm doing a good job or not. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's the only
Yeah.
way. I mean,
Yeah, that's true that AI should be for everyone, and of course there are like a lot of things that are complicated, and maybe I mean they are not for everyone, but at least these kind of technologies like ChatGPT or even I don't know Copilot or things like that, they are created for everyone, and they
yeah,
are, let's say, simple by default, by like design. So yeah, I recommend everyone to go and try because this is the best thing. Go try and play and listen podcasts as ours maybe or create or read everywhere because little by little I think this gap is going to be bigger, so yeah,
yeah.
it's
For
good
me,
to
it's
be
kind
on
of
point.
also it's kind of a tool. I mean, it's kind of if you go back to the 90s and you start using Microsoft Office instead of writing with a pen on a paper and sending a letter. It's a tool that is going to be there. It's going to stay there. So the sooner you can learn, the better for you because
Hmm.
it's here to stay. So
Yes, you know, today I have been talking about AI with another person in the morning, and this person told me, you know, AI now I think that is more present than future because people usually talk about future, the future. You know, the that concept that I like is new technologies. Are they really new? Like now, for example, when we talk about I don't know computers, for example, are they new or are they already old
yeah.
technologies? Sometimes, you know, you have this kind of feelings like, okay, and I have also one thing that maybe in the future, let's see if it's true or not. If someone in the future, in really a lot of years, listen to this podcast, please let me know if I was wrong or right. I think that the term AI is not going to exist anymore in a couple of years because, you know, nowadays we think AI as a concept, but now maybe in a couple of years, it's going to be everywhere. Like even, I don't know, Paint is going to have on your computer AI and
Yeah.
all like small tools everywhere is going to, they're going to have AI. So maybe we are going to forget this term. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, we'll see. We'll see if we commodity. I mean, it's gonna be commoditized. It's gonna be used by everyone. I'm sure about it because it's being integrated in every tool. Every tool you use is already in Office with Copilot. Is everywhere. Is Google with Gemini. It's everything, everywhere actually, and we've been using it like since I don't know, 2005 or whatever. But it's not generative. It's not like as mainstream, but it's here like recommending us what to buy or what to watch on Netflix. So it's everywhere actually.
Exactly. And of course, I think we all have seen a lot of films talking about robots that are going to kill us all and things like that. And of course, we don't want this, but I think AI is not going to be so intelligent like that. But really, like a small, tiny AI like tools, they are really changing our lives. As you mentioned, that's because we're making our life easier and better and much more simple sometimes. So yeah, it's really, really great. But how do you see the future of maybe if we talk about like the whole society, the whole world? Think also maybe about the content creators, let's say, world also. How do you see that AI is going to affect everything?
Well, that's a very tough question actually,
I'm
because
sorry.
I'm very bad at predicting the future. So I could
Maybe
need to
you need
train a
to
model
create.
for that. Yeah.
Exactly. This is what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Well, about content creation, I mean, thanks to AI, there's a lot of tools that are helping make content. I mean, create images, create video, generate like stuff that help doing the whole process kind of accessible to everyone. Because maybe before, if you were not good at taking pictures or whatever, you were not able to do it. But now, if you've got the whole idea in your head and you are able to express it to a model, they can generate the whole thing that is in your brain for you, and you don't need to paint or take a picture or be a kind of, I mean, be able to just make it with your hands.
Mhm. Yeah. So somehow it democratized the access to create content somehow, right?
Yeah, somehow, yeah. Well, this is kind of a debate because there's people that thinks that this is not art creation or this is not kind of creation. But from the moment that you've got an idea on your head and you're able to materialize it somehow, even if it's with a brush or with a camera or with a AI, well, it's creation anyway.
Hmm. Yes, I agree. I agree with you. But many people think that this is like cheating. Using other new technologies or AI, and sometimes I think, as you said, like maybe there was a moment that like taking a picture directly or with a photograph with your camera, for example, that was something new. And many people maybe at that time thought, yeah, you need to draw directly with your hand and a pen, and of course this is another way of creating content.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit afraid because this week I was like playing with the new tool of Google that create podcasts. I don't know if you know it. There is
Yeah, I
a
know
tool.
about it.
No.
I knew you were going to to bring that thing up. Yeah.
you know
Podcasts are
I
dead.
But it's like very, very strange because first the quality of these voices is really high for me.
Yeah.
Even though there is a guy on my LinkedIn feed that told me that apparently for people that are really trained on listening music and podcasts, music and voices created with AI, there is always something that they can hear. But for me, that I am not this kind of person, I was like listening perfect voices talking about any kind of topic, because for the ones that they don't know, you can upload a PDF. For example, I tried with the Spanish Constitution, which is not at all a topic for a podcast, but I brought this to the platform, and in a couple of minutes, I had a 15 minutes podcast with two people debating about the democracy in Spain, about many. But it was even like a little bit like interesting to listen, because they're not only like they are talking about this, they're like questioning and they were creating a narrative. So I'm really afraid of this content creation world. Yeah. What do you think?
Have you learned something about the Spanish constitution when listening to your podcast? Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know because there's something that people say is people like generating content with AI, but people don't like consuming content made by AI. And I don't know, it's difficult because it's true that this kind of tool is very realistic. So for the average human, I mean, I think you cannot know. I couldn't know at least. Uh, but well, yeah, it depends. Well, but after that, maybe there's a lot of podcasts that they are all the same, and then you need to create something else. That's why we are human, because we kind of create something different when everything is kind of the same to stand out.
Mhm.
And then
Yes, I
people
get the
get
point.
tired of the same stuff. So
Yeah, I get the point. Like, um, AI usually create things that are similar to other stuff because they are trained with data, as we
yeah,
said a couple of times during this podcast. So they are somehow reproducing other podcasts that they were maybe trained for, or copying a bit, or or as you said, it's going to be complicated to create something really new with AI. So maybe in the future we are going to have the majority of content created with AI, which is going to be, let's say, more or less the same, and then maybe a 10% of content that is going to be new, maybe more, artisan, and things like that. That maybe this is going to make the difference. But anyway, I think it's going to be a huge thing in a couple of months or
yeah,
years. Yeah.
it is. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, there's already some podcasts that are generated by AI that kind of summarizes news or something like that, and they are kind of a daily podcast. And you've got like tech news, and they summarize it or something like that. So if they use this kind of tool, which is kind of much better, it's gonna be a thing. I mean, for this kind of podcast that they summarize the latest news and just to have you updated on your
Mhm.
feed or something like that, it can be very useful.
Yeah, or for reading the Constitution,
For
for
example.
example. Okay, Marta. I have a couple of questions, and we are running out of time. So I would like to ask you a little bit more, coming to your Datos Ninja community. What's going to be next in the next months or next years, or what are your, let's say, your future plans?
Well, so I mean, it's a very new project. I've started like this spring, so I cannot think about very big things in the future because we are still growing. So the only thing is that for the people that it's inside, I want to keep creating dynamics, contents, or resources that they can use to keep growing. I mean, my dream is to do kind of a live event with people and meet somewhere and get to know each other. That would be great. But well, as long as the whole kind of project is useful for them, I'm happy with it. And then I can come back next year and and update you with this question. But now, just keep the project going, keep the community growing, and keep being useful for them.
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds really great plans. So good luck for those,
Thank
and a
you.
lot of energy, because I
Thank
know
you.
that usually it's hard to create a community. So yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
And also, usually, when we are finishing the episode, I ask my guests to provide small advices to people that maybe want to start a career or something related to them. This is something I usually do. So in your case, I don't know exactly which kind of career maybe they want to do following you. So can you maybe say a couple of advices, for example, for someone that is going to start a master on AI or machine learning? Or, I mean, we talked a bit before about someone who doesn't know anything about data, but imagine that someone is really passionate about AI and wants to start maybe professionally working with that. Maybe can you give some advices?
Well, I've got a couple of them. First, start building something. start building something that you are passionate about using AI or machine learning. There's a thousand of tutorials on the internet that you can follow, and when you build something is when you really start learning, and then also explain what you learn, explain what you build, because explaining what you do really teaches you a lot. I normally say that a lot inside the community, because I encourage people to do live sessions so they can explain their projects, because you uh, you discover things that you are not sure about, and then you learn those things, and you keep growing, and it's really really satisfying.
Mhm. It's good to share, let's say,
Yeah,
because while sharing, you learn also even more. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's true. And yeah, we are finishing, Marta. I don't know if you have any kind of suggestion, recommendation for the end.
Not really. It's been a pleasure being with you and having this nice talk. So thank you.
Yeah, me too. So the last two questions, because I was about to forget, but no,
Okay.
usually at the end of every podcast, every episode, I ask which is your favorite type of coffee, because this is the AI Coffee podcast, and also how can the audience contact you. So just
Okay.
that for finishing.
So I like every kind of coffee. The coffee like the I like the most is the one with foam, like cappuccino and that stuff. Yeah, that's my favorite. I could be having my coffee if it's kind of late for coffee now, if I want to go to bed and sleep. But I love coffee, and coffee like cappuccino is my favorite. Yeah.
Great. And how can the audience contact you?
Datos.ninja
Mhm.
slash contactar.
hmm So yeah, fine. Also, I will put your LinkedIn also
Yeah,
profile
sure. I'm
somewhere
also
in the
on
description.
LinkedIn X and all the social networks.
Great,
Yeah.
great, great. Then, so yeah, now thank you very much, Marta. It was a really a big pleasure having you here and debating about AI, machine learning, and data. And yeah, let's stay in contact for as you said, if it grows a lot, you will going to come back and talk about it.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you.
And also, thank you to you that are watching until the end. If you liked it, please subscribe to the podcast, follow me, follow her, and share with your friends. See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.